The Pharos of Alexandria. That is a lighthouse which stood at Alexandria in north of Egypt 2,300 years ago. Now, Alexander the Great had conquered Egypt in 432 before Christ. He became the pharaoh of Egypt, and he founded the city Alexandria, and it became a chief port. And now there is a little island a bit into the Mediterranean Sea of a harbor of Alexandria, and on that Pharos of Alexander, that Pharos of Alexandria was built under the order of King Ptolemy II of Egypt to the Greek architect Stratus. And it is said that it was 130 meters high. At the top there was a big brazier with a fire burning day and night, and it was said that ships 40 kilometers away could still see the fire. Very much at the top they said that there was a mirror, and it is said that people could see in that mirror what was happening on the other side of the Mediterranean Ocean in Turkey, in Istanbul, in Constantinople, in Asia Minor. Now, and how did it look? There's one version, and that version says it are 4 towers on top of each other, each one smaller. Another version says it is a squared base, and then octagonal in the middle, so 8 sides, and then a circular at the top. Now, it stood there for 900 years, then the city changed its ruling person and people, and now there was then the Caliph Al-Walid, and there was a spy sent by, according to a story, a spy sent by the Emperor of Constantinople to the Caliph Al-Walid, and telling him that there was a fabulous treasure buried underneath the Pharos of Alexandria. Now, according to the story, they started to dig for it, and only when all was already basically destroyed and reconstruction impossible, and also that mirror had fallen down and shattered, they noticed that it was a trick. That is the story. And it was still there was when an earthquake in 1375 fallen down into the harbor made. And there were the white marble stones still lying, out of which the Pharos of Alexandria, that lighthouse, was built. Now, technically only the island had the name Pharos, but when the whole lighthouse was named so, and in many languages around the world, lighthouses are called for that, because of that, Pharos. That is according to Wonders of the World by Lionel Gregson on the page 70. If you click this video away, then please tell me what the reason for it was so that I can improve. Otherwise, hi and welcome. I am trying to learn history today, the Pharos of Alexandria, and after we've done that, we're gonna do standing yoga. And if you participate in the standing yoga, then it's better on it. The Pharos at Alexandria, founded by Alexander the Great after he conquered Egypt in 332 before Christ. Alexandria became Egypt's chief port and one of the great centers of culture during the Hellenistic age. Okay, during that time, 300 onwards, around that time, there was an age called Hellenistic. Alexandria is in northern Egypt. So there's Africa, there's Europe, and there's Egypt in the northern part. It's a harbor. Directly there at the Mediterranean Sea, there's Alexandria. It was founded by Alexander the Great, who was a Macedonian king, and he had conquered a lot, and he had also conquered Egypt in 332. He became the pharaoh of Egypt, and he then founded Alexandria. And the pharaohs of Egypt were descendant of, maybe not him, but of his first general, up to Cleopatra. For a good part of its history of Alexandria, Alexandria had an appropriate beacon in the remarkable lighthouse which stood by the harbor on the island of Pharos. I don't know what a beacon is. So, for a good part of the history of Alexandria, the town, had an appropriate beacon in the remarkable lighthouse which stood by the harbor on the Isle of Pharos. Okay, where's Alexandria? There's the little isle called Pharos, and on that stood a lighthouse, so a building with a big light on the top, and that light is turning around. There's a ship out there on the sea, it sees that light, and at the time that light points into the direction of the ship, and now it sees it. When it turns around again, and then it sees it again. And they can now count. It happens every 8 seconds, 9 seconds, 15 seconds, or whatever. And then they know, first of all, there is a light, so there is a coast, so they don't have to cannot drive too close and so on. But also now from the time intervals and so on, there are some signals what they mean. I don't know, but basically that is a lighthouse. Back when it was done more with fire, I don't know how it was done then. Now, there was a lighthouse on the Pharos at the harbor of Alexandria, and that was an appropriate beacon for the town. Built in white marble in about 270 before Christ, during the reign of King Ptolemy II of Egypt. The lighthouse was designed by the Greek architect Sostratos. So the Pharos of Alexandria is the lighthouse? I have no idea what this even is. Okay, 270 before Christ, there was King Ptolemy II of Egypt reigning, and during that time there was the Greek architect Sostratos ordered to architecture the lighthouse. According to some accounts, it stood 440 feet or 130 meters high. That is really high. I don't have ever seen such a high lighthouse. I have to look at it, but they don't look that big. And if people stand on that and so on, they are just 30 meters high or 40. I mean, 130 meters. Maybe. With a square bottom section on octagonal middle section and a circular top section. No, maybe look at the picture. Now, what does he explain? It had a square bottom, so a square bottom. An octagonal middle section, with 8 things. And a circular top section at the top circle. Other historians say that it was built in 8 or 4 towers, one above the other and each smaller than the one below. So one tower on top of another one. All that effort for a lighthouse? Who would put so much money in a lighthouse? I mean, who would put so much money in a lighthouse? If the reason for people to build things are, we had for 2-3 parts ago in history, with Gilgamesh, to build monuments to keep their fame alive, to become that way immortal. Why then build a lighthouse? So, in the topmost section or tower stood a vast brazier, I don't know what it is, which was kept burning all day and night, burning day and night to provide a beacon. Whatever, there was a big fire, a brazier, I don't know what, a big fire was there, burning day and night, also during the day. The beacon was visible to ships more than 40 kilometers out in the Mediterranean. So 40 kilometers where people could see it on their ships. How do we know it? My question is basically, if they have people up in the masts of a ship, they could see it way further. So is the 40 kilometers just the calculated range of 130 meters height of the Pharos of Alexandria, the lighthouse? Did they now have recordings which say 40 kilometers away, or did they calculate it? If they calculated it, they thought that maybe some people up on top of the ship could see it 20-30 meters further. It would increase it by 10-15 kilometers, assuming they're taking the curving of the Earth from the 130 kilometers, from 30 kilometers based on 130 meters. It's 40 kilometers out. On the summit of the lighthouse was a huge mirror. In this mirror, according to legend, it was possible to see everything that was happening in Constantinople, right across the Eastern Mediterranean and Asia Minor. Why is it just 40 kilometers far visible fire, but we can see with the mirror up to Istanbul, which is way more than 40 kilometers. Now, according to legend, it was possible to see everything which was happening in Constantinople, even what in the deepest mindset was happening. So everything what was happening in Constantinople, right across the Eastern Mediterranean and Asia Minor. It was also said that the mirror could be used like a burning glass to focus the sun's rays on hostile ships far out at sea and burn them. Allowing for such exaggerations, I know what it means.
To make it stronger when it exists, the lighthouse at Alexandria must have deserved to be ranked among the wonders of the ancient world. Okay, if you consider that these things told were in legends are true, then it would be part of the 7 ancient wonders of the world. Though it was not the first lighthouse in the Mediterranean, it was certainly the largest. The island on which it would be strange if it would be the first, but it directly did such a big one without making a test or a prototype. The island on which it stood soon gave its name to the lighthouse itself, and so the word Pharos came to be used in many languages for any lighthouse. Okay, Pharos is used in many languages for lighthouse. The island has the name Pharos, and at some time people started to call the whole lighthouse Pharos. The Pharos continued to light ships to Alexandria for nearly 900 years, until the Arabs captured the city and half dismantled the great lighthouse. It is said that the Caliph al-Walid was tricked into doing this by a spy sent by the Emperor of Constantinople of Istanbul, who wanted to prevent the Pharos being used to benefit Muslim shipping. The spy claimed that a fabulous treasure was buried underneath the Pharos. Only when the lighthouse was beyond reconstruction did the Caliph realize the trick. By then, too, the great mirror had fallen and shattered to smithereens. Is what they're saying, to smithereens? What was left of Pharos survived until 1375, when an earthquake shook Alexandria and hurled the remains of the ancient lighthouse into the harbor, where some of its once white marble stones still lie. Okay, there seems to be some factual evidence of it. Now, again, the story how the thing come down is a little bit like the one of the Colossus of Rhodes and another one, more or less very adventurous, very big stories. Now, we have 5 wonders left. Let's look if they also vanished that way in some spectacular story. That story of the Pharos of Alexandria is that someone was tricked by saying that there was a treasure lying underneath that lighthouse. The person ripped basically completely off to look if there is a treasure. There was no treasure, and the lighthouse was also gone, and it was done so that the Caliph was not using it for their own things, so basically to destroy the guy. And then there was an earthquake, and that makes it. It's also the explanation why there's even less evidence to be found, but here's no said that there are some stones lying in the harbor. White marble. Is it possible to build out of white marble 130 meters high? Marble is very heavy. It also holds quite some things. And how heavy would it be also for the terrain? Would the island Pharos hold it? How much marble would now lie there in the harbor? Whatever. The Pharos of Alexandria. It is a lighthouse at Alexandria, at the northern part of Egypt, or was. We're going to continue the next part of history. If you were here for history, you can go directly to the next part of history, where we will continue with history, and we can read the part again, and then we try to make a little presentation based on these informations we have written about the lighthouse, the Pharos of Alexandria. If you stay here and participate in the standing yoga, then it's better to ask. We're having the feet standing together, and we're breathing in and lifting the arms up. And breathe out the arms out. In and up. Out and out. Breathe in the arms up. And out onto the side. In and out. Out to the other side. In and out. Make an inch space between the feet, then open again to the side, and then breathe in and come up onto tiptoes. Breathe out and sink a bit down. In and up again. Out open to the other side, down with the heels. In and up with the heels. And out and down a bit. In and up. And out, lean onto the knees. Breathe again in. And out, make a hill with the back. In into the middle. And out, make a belly with the back. In into the middle, and out ahead. In into the middle, and out ahead. In into the middle, and out come slowly, put round back up, and make it to the top and backwards, shoulder roll. Breathe and lift the arms up. Come up onto tiptoes, reach high, and out, down, feet together, and down. Breathe and bend the right leg, and Breathe out, bend the left leg. Breathe in, change. Out and down. In into the middle. Out and down. Breathe in the right hand up. Breathe out, bend the left knee and look over the right shoulder to the right hand. In and down. Out and down. In left hand up. Bend the right knee and look to the left hand. In and down. Out and down. Make a hand with space between the feet. Shift the weight to the heels and breathe in and go down. And out and up. In and down. Out and up. Take hold onto the elbows and gentle rock from side to side. Hands again down, feet together, breathe and come halfway out, straight back. Out and down. In halfway up, straight back. Out and down. In up again, we are diving swan, hands together, and again down. The toes are pointing to the outside, leaving an overlap space between the heels, breathe in with the arms up. And breathe out and sink down, elbows against the insides of the knees. Breathe in, straighten up. And out and come with the back up. Breathe again in. And out and down. Breathe in, straighten up. And out another time with the back up. Breathe again. And out and down. Breathe in, straighten up. And out and come slowly upwards. Hands again down. The feet are standing together. Breathe in, lift the arms up. And breathe out, draw the shoulder blades together. In and up. Out and down. In and up. Hands together and lean back. In and up. Out, lean to the side. Into the middle. Out over to the other one. Into the middle. Into the middle fingers, the reach high. Breathe out, reach in front of the back. In and up. Intertwine the other way around. Breathe in, reach high. Out in the front. In and up. Back with the long arms. In and up. Out and back. In and up. Out and down. Breathe in the arms up. Out and down. In and up. Bring the hands to touch, allow the hands down to heart center. That was a standing yoga. I thank you very much and until next time.